For today's math lesson, we are working on Topic 1, Lesson 5. We are on page 21 of our Volume 1 workbook. And today's learning intentions are: I can solve word problems that involve how many more. So let's get started. So our solve and share says there are 5 red cars and 3 blue cars. Are there more red cars or blue cars? How many more? Show how you know. So first I'm going to go back. I'm going to circle and underline my important words. So it says I have 5 red cars. Okay? Then I have 3 blue cars. Are there more red cars or blue cars? How many more? So if you don't have colored pencils for this part, that is perfectly fine. You can just use your pencil and label them. But since Mrs. Collier has her little handy dandy tools, I'm just going to make some dots to represent. Okay, I have 5 red cars, so I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, that's okay, 4, 5. So that's going to represent my 5 red cards that I have. Again, if you don't have colored pencils, that's okay. You can just use your pencil and make a mark. Okay, then I have 3 blue cards. So I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3. Okay, off to a good start, guys. Okay, so I have 5 red cards. So I have my 5 dots representing my 5 red cards. And then I have 3 blue cars, so I have my 3 blue dots representing my 3 blue cars. So now that we have our representation of all of our cars, so that's what all of these dots are, it wants us to show how many more, show how we know. So it asks us, are there more red cars or blue cars? So let's look at our picture here. We could also look at our numbers, but I'm going to show us by looking at our pictures. Do I have more red cars or blue cars? I have more red cars. It told us in our problem that I have 5 red cars and 3 blue cars. So I know I have more red. Now it wants to know how many more do I have. So one way I could do it, one way that I could show this, I could draw a line from one car to the next. So this represents my first red car and my first blue car. So I can say, okay, we both have 1, we both have 2, we both have 3, but then I don't have any more blue cars. So I end up having these 2 extra cars because I have 5 red cars and 3 blue cars. So how many more cars do we have? We have 2 more red cars. So for your answer, you can write 2 more red cars. And if you don't have colored pencils or markers or something to draw with, you could still just draw those circles and write the word red next to it and write the word blue next to it. So I know not everybody might have that at home. So 2 more red cars is what my answer will be for my solve and share. Now let's watch our animated video for the top of our workbook, page 22. So on workbook page 22, we are now just going to watch our video that tells us how to do that top section.
Five cats have blue hats. 2 cats have orange hats. How many more blue hats are there than orange hats? You can use cubes to compare. What do the blue cubes stand for?
Select the hats, comparing the number of cats using cubes. Blue cubes stand for cats wearing blue hats. There are 5 blue cubes.
The blue cubes stand for the blue hats. There are 5 blue hats and 5 blue cubes. Which hats do the orange cubes stand for? The orange cubes stand for the orange hats. There are 2 orange hats and 2 orange cubes. How many more blue hats are there than orange hats?
There are 3 more blue hats than orange hats.
You see 3 more blue cubes than orange cubes. You can write a subtraction equation to compare. Look at the subtraction equation. What does the 5 stand for? The 5 stands for 5 blue hats. What does the 2 stand for? The 2 stands for 2 orange hats. What does the 3 stand for? The 3 stands for the difference. There are 3 more blue hats than orange hats.
We are going to skip over the convince me and go right to guided practice. On Mrs. Collier's version and your version of the workbook, it has 2 different problems, so I don't want to confuse anybody. So we are just going to move on to our guided practice. So we are still on page 22. So our guided practice says use cubes to help. And remember, we said sometimes we don't always use the cubes, even when it says we can use them, because sometimes it's easier to just use our picture. Okay, so in our guided practice, be following along with me and using your pencil, please. It says we have 6 yellow frogs, and we have 3 green frogs. So we can see in our picture here, let's count how many yellow frogs we have. The yellow. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it said we had 6 yellow, so we have 6 down here. Let's count our 3 green frogs. So we have 1, 2, 3 green frogs. Our question says, how many more yellow frogs are there than green frogs? So our problem down here is already filled out for us. It says 6 minus 3 equals 3. So the way that we are able to get this problem here is that we said we started with 6 yellow frogs because our question said how many more yellow frogs. So I'm going to put yellow frogs first, which is the number 6 for 6 yellow frogs, minus, then green frogs are there. We know we have 3 green frogs, so I'm going to write the number 3 equals, so 6 minus 3. We can do this on our fingers. You can do it in your head. If you need to write it down, you can. Or we can also look at our pictures up here. So up here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6, and then I have 1, 2, 3 green frogs. So I could also look at my picture to say that 6 minus 3 is equal to 3. So I have 3 more yellow frogs than green frogs. Another way we looked at this earlier was us drawing our dots. So even though we have our pictures, if we draw our dots, so if I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I compare how many green frogs I have. So if I only have 3, it's a 1, 2, 3. Well, we can see by comparing how many we have, we both have 1, we both have 2, we both have 3, but then I'm left with these 3 extra ones that the green does not have. I have 3 more yellow frogs left than I do green. So our answer is 3. Let's look at our independent practice on page 23 of our workbook. Our independent practice. Number 2 says 3 brown dogs, 1 black dog. How many more brown dogs than black dogs are there? So how many more? So in order to set up this problem, so we need to set up our subtraction problem right down here. So I know this is independent practice, but let's just do it together because this is going to show you how to solve for number 3 and number 4. So again, we have 3 brown dogs and 1 black dog. We can also see it in our picture. We see 1, 2, 3 brown dogs and 1 black dog. So how many more brown dogs than black dogs are there? So I need to write my total number of brown dogs. How many brown dogs do I have in this problem 3? In this problem 2. I have 3 brown dogs, so I'm going to write the number 3. It's a subtraction problem, so I'm going to write my minus sign. Then black dogs. How many black dogs are in the problem 2? There is 1 black dog. So I have 3 minus 1 equals, because I'm about to get my total numbers, I need to write my equal sign. 3 minus 1 is equal to what number? There are 3 brown dogs and 1 black dog. So we want to know how many more brown dogs than black dogs are there. 3 minus 1 is equal to 2. There are 2 more brown dogs than black dogs. So that is how you would solve for that problem. Number 3 says 7 red beads, 4 green beads. How many more red beads than green beads are there? So you need to set up your problem for number 3 just like how we set up our problem in number 2 and we wrote our answer down in this blank. So if I have 7 red beads and 4 green beads, how many more red beads do I have than green? How many more? Number 4 says there are more bluebirds than yellowbirds. Write 2 equations to show. Then solve. So down here we have our picture. We have 2 different ways to show our problem. It wants us to write it using subtraction and addition. So it says there are more bluebirds than yellowbirds. Write 2 equations to solve. So if I were writing my subtraction equation, I would set it up just how we set up number 2 and 3 for this first line up here. If I have more bluebirds than yellowbirds, I would need to write my total number of bluebirds here. So how many bluebirds are there? Write that number here. how many yellow birds are here? So count how many yellow birds there are and write that number. Then you need to subtract to get your answer. Subtract to get your answer. Then, if we were using addition, we would need to write the total number of yellow birds in this blank plus the number of how many more blue birds there are than yellow birds. And then what would that total be? For our final blank, it wants you to write the number of how many blue birds there were more than the yellow birds. So how many more blue birds were there than the yellow? The last page of our workbook, so page 24. Now we are going to do the rest of our problem solving. So for number 5, it says 4 fish are in a tank. 2 of those fish are sold. How many fish are left? So for number 5, you are just going to be writing the subtraction problem for what we have for our information. So we were told we had a total of 4 fish, so you would need to write your total number. It's a subtraction problem, so we are going to write a minus sign. How many were sold equals how many are left. So I had 4 fish. I subtracted 2, and that equals what number? Then you are going to write that total number of fish down here in the blank. Number 6 says Lewis sees 5 green frogs. He then sees 1 blue frog. How many more green frogs than blue frogs does Lewis see? So how many more green frogs than blue frogs does Lewis see? So for your problem down here, we're going to write the total number of green frogs minus how many blue frogs we saw. And that equals what number? Then we are going to write that number in this blank and this blank below. Number 7 says draw some yellow flowers. Draw more red flowers than yellow flowers. How many more red flowers than yellow flowers are there? So for this problem, boys and girls, you are able to choose how many flowers you are drawing. If you don't have a colored pencil or a marker, you can just use your regular pencil. You'll just have to mark or name or remember which flowers are which. So I'm going to draw my yellow flowers. It just said to draw some, so it doesn't say draw how many, it just says draw some. So I'm going to draw 2 yellow flowers. I'm going to show you an example of how to do this problem. So it then says draw more red flowers than yellow flowers. So I drew 2 yellow flowers, so I have to draw more than 2 red flowers. It said to have more red than yellow. So I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3 of these red flowers. Then it says, how many more red flowers than yellow flowers are there? So for Mrs. Collier's example, it says, how many more red flowers than yellow flowers are there? So how many red flowers did I draw? I drew 1, 2, 3. I drew 3 red flowers minus, how many yellow flowers did I draw? I drew 1, 2. So this is going to equal, well, 3 minus 2, I know, is 1. I can do that by holding up 3 fingers and taking 2 of them down. Or I can look at my picture. It wants to know how many more of my red flowers and yellow flowers did I have? Well, I can say, okay, well, I have 1, 2 yellow flowers. I have 1, 2 red flowers, but I still have this one extra flower by itself. So I know that I had 1 more red flower than my yellow. So for boys and girls, you can write your own equation for number 7. I just wanted to show you an example of what it was talking about. For number 8, it says there are 6 gray cats and 4 white cats. It says how many more gray cats than white cats are there? So let's look at our answer choices. It says 2 more gray cats, 4 more gray cats, 6 more gray cats, or 10 more gray cats. So how many more gray cats than white cats are there? So if I have, I'm going to use my counters. Actually, I'll use these X's. So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gray cats. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 white cats. How many more of these gray cats did I have left? So in this box, how many are left? When you find that number, look for the same number down here to answer your question for you. You'll just fill in the circle for which number you select.